So ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the Buffalo Bills to face off against their little brother, the Miami Dolphins, in Josh Allen Stadium, Thursday Night Football. On this video, I'm going to be giving you my full preview and prediction, so fasten your seatbelts and let's dive right into it. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, this game certainly has a lot at stake, more particularly for the Miami Dolphins. I'm not saying this to troll, but I would be lying to you if the Buffalo Bills have not had the Dolphins number for the past 6 to 7 years. Since Josh Allen has been the quarterback, this Buffalo Bills team has an 11-3 record, and so the only win in recent memory has been by 2 points a couple of years ago, where the Buffalo Bills largely had quite a few self-inflicted wounds. But each and every single year comes a new roster, a new mentality, but I will tell you what, I still feel very, very confident about it. Now, right before we dive into it, if you guys are wondering where you are going to watch the game this Thursday night, have no fear, I have the place. It just so happens to be Club Bud Light at 34 Rush over at Batavia Downs. Now guys, this is the #1 place to go and watch all of your Buffalo Bills games, home and away. They have drink specials, food specials inspired by Thurman Thomas himself. And so this Thursday night, there is an absolutely beautiful special going on. Some Bud Light giveaway action, folks. As you can see, we have halftime prizes, we have after game prizes. All you have to do is just purchase a Bud Light and be there. And it's the best place. They have some of the largest TVs you've ever seen in your entire life. It's right next to the gaming floor. Roll on over to Club Bud Light at 34 Rush at Batavia Downs. So every time I analyze a team, I always like to start off with the quarterback because that is the most important position that each and every single team is putting out on the field. For the Miami Dolphins' sake, that just so happens to be Tua. Now, granted, Week 1 data is pretty difficult to give a ultimate conclusion, but I think as Bills fans, we have a pretty good understanding at how this guy tends to play throughout the season and then also more specifically against our favorite team. Last week, Tua went 23 for 37. That was good enough for 62% of his passes. He threw for 338 yards. Definitely pause on that. There is a bit of context I want to dive into later on in this video. 9.1 yards per average, and then 1 touchdown and 0 interceptions. Now, we all know that Tua is that guy that gets rid of the ball the fastest, okay? Now, we can say that this has to do with the fact that he has a hard time going through his progressions. We could also say that his offensive line is not doing him any favors, and he needs to get the ball away that fast, but he's getting rid of the ball, at least based off of Week 1, at 2.38 seconds. That's around the average of where he was last year and the years before. As far as his weapons, which we'll dive into deeper, they had 4 recorded drops. He received 6 pressures and he was sacked 3 times. So overall, I would say a pretty average game from the quarterback against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, diving right into passing concepts, folks, I always like getting a good understanding of how a quarterback performs under play action, non-play action, etc. And so he went 10 for 15 with a 66.7% completion percentage while he was established in play action. Non-play action, he ended up going 13 for 28, 59.1%, and only 5 point yards per average. And then surprisingly enough, last week, he was throwing a lot of screens, folks. We're talking about 9 screen attempts the entire game, where he went 8 for 9, obviously, and then 8.3 yards per average. We're going to dive into that a bit deeper. Passing depths, as many of you guys know, deep shots, not too many. He went 3 for 6, and that is 20+ yards downfield. And so medium passes, that's 10 to 19 yards after the line of scrimmage. He went 3 for 4. Short, that is 0 to 9 yards after the line of scrimmage. He went 6 for 12. And behind the line of scrimmage, he went 11 for 13. So a lot of what Tua has been doing, probably in turn of searching for an answer for this weak offensive line, is that he has been doing whatever he can to get the ball out as fast as humanly possible and allowing his wide receivers to get yards after the catch and make plays. He's not really taking a lot of shots downfield. Only 10 of his passes in general were past the 10-yard line from the line of scrimmage. In my opinion, based off of the short time to prepare for this game, I think that this is going to be the exact same Tua that we will be seeing on Thursday night. So when it comes to pressure, when Tua played the Jacksonville Jaguars, he went 22 for 33, completing 66.7% of his passes. When he was under pressure, and granted, he wasn't under pressure as much as people wanted to suggest that he would be due to their offensive line, he went 1 for 4 and completed only 25% of his passes. And then when he was blitzed, he went 4 for 7, completing 57% of his passes. So being able to predict what Tua is going to do against the Buffalo Bills on Thursday night, based off of this data, and since it really does align with what he has been doing in previous years, expect for Tua to really dominate that short pass game. He's going to get the ball out quick, likely is going to be the first read, and anticipate quite a bit of screens. Now, while the Dolphins' offensive line did exceed expectations, especially with all the question marks this offseason, have to get pressure on this guy. I'm not going to suggest that the Buffalo Bills need to dial up a bunch of blitz packages, especially with the way that he quarterbacks this overall squad. We need as many people in coverage as humanly possible. We need Gregory Rousseau, Von Miller, Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones to get that organic pressure. Obviously, we need Christian Benford and Rasul Douglas to do what they do and get to this guy, because we all understand that he crumbles once he is under pressure by itself and you take away that first read. Now, let's talk about the offense in general, folks. Last week, they ended up scoring 20 points. They had 400 yards in total. A lot of those were passing yards. They only ended up putting like 80 yards on the ground, which was certainly uncharacteristic. Raheem Mostert ended up suffering an injury at the beginning of the game, and then Devon Achane was really more of a threat in the passing game opposed to actually running. And surprisingly enough, Wilson was their leading running back last week. But I have a feeling that the Miami Dolphins are going to be transitioning back to the Devon Achane game. Now, yards per average, it was 6.2 per play. And so as far as third down conversion rate, and they completed about 50% of those. So really overall, a very uncharacteristic Miami Dolphins offense. We can say that it was week one and they had some rust that they needed to walk off. I'm not going to be taking this home and thinking this is what we are going to be anticipating. But I want to circle back right into the rushing stats, because this team almost looked uncharacteristic when it came into running the ball against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is solid, but I definitely wouldn't compare it to the Buffalo Bills. That is for damn sure. Surprisingly enough, they only ended up rushing the football or running the football 38%, right? And that almost seems somewhat uncharacteristic. They almost ended up giving up on the run entirely, even though they were seeing some success, specifically from Wilson. 3.2 yards per carry. They only rushed for 81 yards, like I said, and they had one rushing touchdown. Now, the splits between all of the running backs that were taking carries, as mentioned before, Jeff Wilson, 5 carries for 26 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, so a sleeper running back we have to take a look at. 10 carries for 24 yards devoted to Devon Achane, only 2.4 yards on average. And Raheem Mostert, like I mentioned, was injured at the beginning of the game, only having 6 carries for 9 yards, 1.5 yards per carry on average. Now, when you look at this Miami Dolphins running game, you look at each and every single running back that they have on roster. And sure, they are absolutely blazing fast. But this is not going to be the team that likes to run in between the tackles on the offensive line. They are going to love these outside zone runs and really test your defensive ends and also your linebackers in the second level of this game. And when I tell you that these guys do not run in between the tackles, or at least they do not successfully do so, out of the 81 yards they rush for last Sunday, only 8 yards came from them running in between the tackles, running in between the guard and the center, or the tackle and the guard. It was always being able to challenge those defensive ends. So a north-south runner just doesn't exist on this team. They are just trying to leverage a super speedy guy that can get to the outside. So now we need to ask ourselves this question: how much do we trust Gregory Rousseau to really be able to take care of that run game once they end up attempting to leverage that? I would say that I am very happy about it. Von Miller, I suppose I'm a bit concerned, but the good news is that it sounds like Javon Solomon, who showed out in the preseason as being an absolute threat against the run, seems to be practicing. I would love to have Javon Solomon out there for at least 30 to 40% of the snaps and be able to make some plays. Now, regarding to linebackers, I thought Dorian Williams did very well with his tackling capabilities against Arizona. We know that Bernard is going to be able to make some plays, but hear me out, all right? And I'm not saying this to be that I'm obsessed with the feel-good story from the Buffalo Bills. Does Joe Andreessen deserve to be called up to the roster? Especially since dude collected like 30-something tackles in the preseason. Is this a Joe Andreessen game where he sees a couple of snaps? If not, if the Buffalo Bills elect to go with a dime package where it is exclusively just Terrell Bernard, is this the day where we activate Cole Bishop? that comes out here. He was known in college for being aggressive against the run, sometimes overly aggressive to the point where he overshot his target. But is this the game where Cole Bishop becomes a factor? So many question marks, but spoiler alert, one of the keys to stopping this Dolphins offense, first we have to stop this run game so they can't establish play action. And if that is the case, we need people that can damn tackle. That is for damn sure. So many missed tackles from the Bills defense at the beginning of the Cardinals game last week. I don't want to have one of those situations where we start off slow. For the love of God, finish your tackles. Now, with that being a theme about the Buffalo Bills finishing their tackles, I'm going to tell you exactly why they need to. Transitioning over into the receiving stats for the Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane all had a hell of a game, okay? You had Tyreek Hill with 7 receptions, 130 yards, Jalen Waddle, 5 receptions for 109, and Devon Achane, 76 yards with 7 receptions. Now, here's the deal. I told you about Tua's yards that he collected, okay? 332. Get this. Out of all of those receiving stats that I mentioned from Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane, it equated to 240 yards after the catch, meaning that the second that all 3 of these guys caught the ball, they ended up doing more than about 70% of Tua's overall passing yards. So what does that tell you? These guys are very fast. If you have an opportunity, make damn sure that you wrap your arms and you take these guys down. We need Sean McDermott to really dial up his overall zone coverage scheme. He has done a fantastic job at being able to take Tyreek Hill out of games since he's been in Miami. He's done a great job at being able to take away Tua's first read. As long as we can take away this first read from Tua, as long as we can confuse him with Sean McDermott's proven system, I have a feeling this is a tremendous, tremendous matchup for the Buffalo Bills D. Now, as far as their offensive line, we did mention that there's a lot of question marks this offseason. A lot of Dolphins fans have been coming in my chat saying that they exceeded expectations. However, when it came into it, this offensive line did allow 2 sacks, 2 hurries, and 4 pressures. And then I would say, out of everybody on that line, the 2 largest liabilities for this team is Austin Jackson, who is your right tackle, and then Liam Eichenberg, who is their right guard. So the entire right side of the line has a lot of issues when it comes into pass protection. So that means that Gregory Rousseau, Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, so really need to earn their damn paycheck. If Gregory Rousseau can once again dominate the Austin Jacksons of the world, the Liam Eichenbergs of the world, Ed Oliver can do the exact same. This is what we need to do. We have an opportunity of dominating the trenches on both sides of the ball. Pick on those 2. These are the 2 matchups that I am absolutely ecstatic to watch. So overall keys of beating the Miami Dolphins offense or getting the best of the Miami Dolphins offense. So number 1 is make your damn tackles. I already told you how much yards after the catch these wide receivers do have, but I'm confident that our zone scheme is not really going to give them a lot of running room. Just hit your angles correctly and finish your damn tackles. Number 2, we know exactly what the Miami Dolphins run scheme is going to be. They're not going to be running in between the tackles. However, the defensive ends are going to be tested. It's just how it is. Same thing with the linebackers. If we need to bring in Cole Bishop, if we need to bring in an extra DB, it's very important to run downhill and make sure that they do not get the run game going. Last week, they put up 81 yards. Let's do the exact same damn thing. So last but not least, get pressure on Tua. And there was only 4 occasions where he did end up getting pressured, and he only ended up completing 1 of his damn passes. So the Buffalo Bills, all 3 of those, I think our defense has a really good shot at being able to dominate this Dolphins offense. So now it comes down into the Miami Dolphins defense, and as we know, Vic Fangio ended up leaving for the Philadelphia Eagles. They have a brand new defensive coordinator out of the Baltimore Ravens organization, and granted, we only have 1 week of data. However, this is what they ended up doing. They allowed 17 points from the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, although the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, quite frankly, looked absolutely anemic. 267 yards on that game. They had 5.3 yards per play. They allowed 20% third down conversions. And red zone scoring allowed, they allowed 66% of all red zone trips. Now, passing defense also ended up doing very well. 57% completion percentage was associated with Trevor Lawrence, and they allowed 139 yards in the air, which is good enough for 9th in the league. However, I do think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars ended up having so much success on the ground. This Miami Dolphins defense, something that we have been talking about all offseason, did not look good. they were allowing the Jacksonville Jaguars to collect close to 5 yards per carry on average. That's 25th in the league currently, and allowed 128 yards on the ground. So that could explain why the pass defense was doing so well, because the Jacksonville Jaguars figured, hell, we're just going to run the football here. And the thing is, this is the #1 key for this Buffalo Bills team. Run the damn ball. I guarantee you that Travis Etienne and the other gentlemen that they ended up having over in Jacksonville do not compare to what James Cook, Ray Davis can do for this running game over in Buffalo. Hand the ball off and completely chip away. Dominate time of possession as much as humanly possible. This run defense over in Miami can get got. Look for a James Cook game of 100+ yards on the ground. And don't sleep on Josh Allen's ability to also make plays with his legs. And so I understand he has that hand injury. We don't want to risk it. But at the end of the day, if we really want to open up this pass attack, running the damn ball needs to be at least 57% of the game plan. And trust me when I tell you that this pass defense, don't look at those stats I just gave you and think that this is a lockdown team. There were a lot of people that were struggling on this Miami Dolphins defense, particularly several occasions where Jalen Ramsey was absolutely getting toasted by a rookie, specifically in Brian Thomas Jr. But I will tell you what, the 3 players that I really want us to go after, hands down has to be David Long, hands down has to be Kader Kohou, and surprisingly enough, Jordan Poyer. And so these guys all had the lowest PFF scores based off of coverage in general. And so the beautiful thing about this is that all 3 of these guys are found in the middle of the field. With Kader Kohou, he's going to be the slot corner, with Jordan Poyer is obviously their strong safety, and David Long is obviously going to be their linebacker. So what does that tell you? That's a Dalton Kincaid game. That is a Khalil Shakir game. That is a James Cook in the pass game situation. And for the love of God, it appears that we finally have a screen game. So maybe we even end up leveraging some Curtis Samuel action, some Khalil Shakir, some Keon Coleman, etc. So when it comes down into it, my 3 keys for the Buffalo Bills turning out to be victorious for this team is going to be, #1, run the damn ball. Like I said, this team struggled stopping the run last year, and what week 1 suggested is that they didn't miss a beat. That is still their Achilles heel. So we can establish play action. #2, no turnovers, all right? This is going to be a key to the game each and every single time, all right? We saw what Jacksonville did last week to cough up their opportunity of beating the Dolphins with Travis Etienne coughing it up in the red zone. If he were to convert, who knows what this game would have been. Maybe it would have been different. But the Buffalo Bills need to continue that, okay? So no fumbles, no interceptions, nothing. So let's play solid complementary football. #3, make sure that you target a lot of these playmakers on the defense. I know Jalen Ramsey was getting burnt last week, but I still don't want to risk that. Their outside corners are very talented, but there's so much to take advantage of in the middle of the field for the Miami Dolphins. Attack the linebackers, and so attack the slot corner in Kader Kohou, and so I absolutely love these matchups. Now, as far as final score prediction, I think this is going to be a relatively low-scoring game. I don't see the Buffalo Bills going above 30 just because I see us running the ball quite a bit, really doing these long, sustained drives. I'm going to go Buffalo Bills 28 and the Miami Dolphins 21. I do think that Tua and Tyreek Hill is probably going to bust out a couple here and there, but for the most part, I do see this game being a hell of a lot more dominant than the box score will suggest. Sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and your final score prediction. Again, like this video, subscribe to the channel for more daily NFL content, and be sure to tune in to my live game reaction on Thursday evening. We had close to 800 people watching me last week. I would love to even double that damn thing, and I know it's probably going to happen. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And before I let you go, you better always remember, let's go Buffalo.